Good morning, Zoo Med fans. We're here at AnimalCon Day 3 of 2023, our second AnimalCon. We're here with Alex from Tarantula Haven. Alex, do you want to tell our fans a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I run Tarantula Haven. My channel is primarily about tarantulas, how to keep them, what kind of enclosures to put them in, how to set up those enclosures, but I also deal with other invertebrates. I've got a few scorpions, I've got some beetles, and I keep mantises here and there. So just kind of in general, a lot of the creepy crawly stuff.
What platforms can they find you on?
I'm on YouTube primarily. I also have an Instagram and a TikTok, and I think that's kind of where most of my stuff is, yeah.
Okay. Have you been keeping tarantulas for a long time?
I started in 1996 is when I got my first tarantula, but I didn't start keeping seriously until about 2016 or 15. I think it's 16. It was when I got my first old world tarantula. My kids had kept tarantulas here and there, but they were usually just your typical brown tarantulas or a pink toe. But my friend was keeping tarantulas, and he said he had Udi Sapphire, which is a blue tarantula. He had a Togo Starburst, which is a white tarantula. It's like a chalky gray color. And he just had all these different tarantulas that I had never seen. He offered to sell me one, and it was this Togo Starburst, which is considered like the second most venomous tarantula. So it took a lot of thought before I got it. I researched it. I went through all the horror stories and everything, and he assured me that it's not that bad, that you have to learn how to deal with them, that kind of stuff, and you can keep it. So I made an agreement with my wife because she was absolutely no. She said, if you ever get bitten by one of these, that's it, you're done. So I've never been bitten by an old world. I have been bitten by a new world, and it was no big deal. But as far as old world, I'm always extra careful because I don't want my hobby to end. That just kind of opened the floodgates after that because there's so many different species and colors and patterns, and I just went crazy.
So that's where your love really took off.
Yes.
So what led to creating content? What led to making videos? How did that start?
I was researching YouTube, as we all do, and there weren't a whole lot of videos on care on tarantulas. What was out there was limited as far as certain species and your more common species, but the hobby's been expanding. So you got species that you've never heard of or don't know how to keep. So it was a thing where I watched other YouTubers and I didn't find the content that I was looking for. I did find it with Dark Den. He was here last year. He's showing his experience of keeping tarantulas and how he keeps them, the mistakes he makes, what he's learned. And I figured I could do that too because there's not that much out there. And I started making them, and it started to take off. It started to grow. So obviously there was a need for it.
I feel like as many different reptile and amphibian species as there are, there's exponentially as many insect species out there.
Yes.
I mean, every day I feel like I'm learning a new species that I didn't know existed before.
Right.
I mean, do you still find yourself that way, going, oh, I didn't even know about that one.
Yes.
I want to check into that one now.
And that's the interesting thing, is that the hobby was kind of a niche hobby, and everybody knew about certain species, but now we're finding more, and they're popping up in the market, and it just keeps growing and growing. And it seems like the more YouTubers we have out there, the more influencers, the more people get into it, and it's growing. We've seen it grow.
Oh,
we have seen it grow exponentially, and we get more attention now that we used to get when we first started out. So yeah, it was definitely a needed thing. And yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, obscure stuff that you probably never heard of. I've been keeping these little spider beetles, and they're tiny little things. They look like spiders, but they're beetles, and they're almost like feigning death beetles where you touch them and they play dead. Yeah, so they're really cool.
Is there anything you've like learned of that you're like, I'm gonna get that next? Like that's gonna be my next project right there.
Right now, I'm kind of at a standstill. I've got limited space in my room. I've got a bedroom that I've turned into my tarantula room, but it's not huge. So I've got a limited space. So if I get more space, I'll increase what I have. But right now I'm kind of stagnant. I'm sitting, with the species I have. But I'm good with that because that gives me time to devote to them and make sure that they're well kept.
Absolutely. We're here at AnimalCon. I mean, and this is an amazing event. I mean, I'm sure you've had a great time.
Oh yeah.
But it's the beginning of something wonderful for young creators. Do you have any advice to somebody who's maybe thinking about creating content or starting, a vlog? What could you say to them that might help them on their path?
I think probably the best thing would be to stay genuine, be yourself. be knowledgeable about your subject, find out as much as you can. If you make mistakes, correct them and go back and make sure that people understand that you did make a mistake and you want to retract that and you want to put out correct information. And definitely put out as much information as you can that is reliable and correct, and not put out misinformation. So I think those are important things. But overall, be entertaining too, because people want to see and want to be entertained. If you're just deadpan and not really putting forth enthusiasm or anything like that, people aren't going to watch you. But I think it comes with practice, because I know my first videos, I was so stiff and nervous just in front of my own camera, you know, but I knew other people
But you
would
knew
be
people were
watching.
going to watch that thing.
Right. Yeah, so as I spent more time in front of the camera, became more comfortable, you develop a pattern, you know, and then things get a lot easier. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's great advice,
Yeah.
Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of
All
AnimalCon.
right.